We're going to call our meeting to order. Pledge of Allegiance will be led by Sergeant Tammy Hink. She is retiring after 25 years. And invocation will be led by Chaplain Shane Stan. Let us stand.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good morning to you. And if everybody wants to turn in their Bibles to John 3:16, we'll get there. Oh, I came to pray, didn't I? Sorry about that. Let us pray. Dear Heavenly Father, we just thank you for this day. We're so grateful for how you love us. We're so grateful for how you look out for us. We're most certainly grateful for the salvation in your Son, Jesus Christ. We're grateful for this board and this community that has come out today to voice their concerns, handle concerns. Lord, I just pray that there'll be a unity found in this time together between both this board and the community. And Lord, I lift up something that's very dear to all of our hearts, I believe, is that we've lost two officers just so very recently. And Lord, we're still processing that, still healing from that. And I just pray, Lord, that you'll continue to help us with that. I pray also, Lord, for the life that was lost as subsequently related to that accident, another member of our community. Lord, I know it's hard as we process these things, but even so, the perpetrator of the situation, Lord, we pray for him and his family because he's a child of someone too. And mistakes happen. And Lord, we thank you for the many mistakes that you forgive us from. So Lord, today I just pray that you'll guide this time together. You'll look after us, and the things that will need to be met will be met. There'll be the unity that is necessary to get it done. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Please remain standing. I guess the audience can be seated. We're going to ask former Commissioner Don Wagner if he will come. There's a resolution. I guess we'll go down.
We will.
All right.
Whereas W. Don Wagner has faithfully served the Kansas City Police Department for more than 5 years as a commissioner of the Kansas City Board of Police Commissioners from 2017 until 2022, including serving as the president from 2020 to 2021 and treasurer from 2017 to 2020, and again from 2021 to 2022. And whereas W. Don Wagner is a private investor and general partner of Wagner Investments and the former CEO of Kansas City-based steel tank manufacturer CST Industries Incorporated, which he sold in 2006. And whereas W. Don Wagner is a member of the Royals ownership group and has previously helped create a partnership between the Royals and the Boys and Girls Club to participate in a program called Reviving Baseball in Inner Cities. And whereas W. Don Wagner has served as chairman of the board of both the Boys and Girls Club Board of Kansas City and Friends of the Kansas City Zoo, and currently serves as a board member for APSCO, the National Association of Basketball Coaches Foundation, and the Kansas City Zoo Foundation, as trustee emeritus of the University of Missouri at Kansas City, and as an advisory board member for TGP Investments, LLC. And whereas W. Don Wagner's honors include the Spirit Award from Gillis and the Gates Medallion Award from William Jewell, and was named to the Hall of Fame for the Boys and Girls Clubs of the state of Missouri. And whereas W. Don Wagner is a graduate of the University of Tulsa and the Stanford Executive Program. And whereas W. Don Wagner has been an outstanding member of the Board of Police Commissioners of Kansas City, Missouri Police Department and has exemplified those qualities which are found in the finest law enforcement leaders throughout the country. And whereas W. Don Wagner's extraordinary leadership, vast knowledge, wise counsel, and dedicated service will be greatly missed. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Board of Police Commissioners of Kansas City, Missouri hereby expresses its sincere gratitude and genuine appreciation for W. Don Wagner's leadership, counsel, and tireless service to the Kansas City Police Department and the city of Kansas City, Missouri, and its sorrow at his retirement as a member of the Board of Police Commissioners of Kansas City, Missouri in December of 2022.
My condolences on the loss of the fallen officer, James Milbauer, and his canine officer Champ, and the pedestrian Jesse Eccles. But Kansas City is doing great. Everybody knows that. We just won the Super Bowl. Go Chiefs. And we're about to have the NFL draft here. We got the World Cup coming to town in a couple of years. We'll soon have the women's only soccer stadium in the world. The Royals have aggressive new ownership, not necessarily me, but others. And we have a new airport, which is opening today, and a new streetcar line extension, which is almost complete. And we have a new aquarium, $85 million aquarium at the Kansas City Zoo, which will open this fall. Be sure and go. We've got new mega data centers, big data centers up north. And we're undergoing big expansions at KU Med and at UMKC and much more. Kansas City is a great place to live, and we're really on a roll. But we do have one big problem in Kansas City, and that's the crime rate. So the reality is that the police have the most important jobs in the city. We have an outstanding police department. That's been shown over and over, but the police don't get anywhere near enough credit for the great job that you do. I want to thank you for doing your job, putting your life on the line to protect and serve this city and its great future. And in my 5 years as commissioner, I've always been proud and honored to be a part of this outstanding police department. I sincerely hope that you're also proud of this department. And I want to thank you for this recognition and the Billy Club. And promise not to use it unless I have to.
Oh, I'm sorry. I can find that. But you want them to stay as well? Okay, sure. We have a few promotions to announce, starting with promotion to Sergeant Scott Mullen. Detective Scott Mullen joined the Kansas City, Missouri Police Department as a lateral officer on February 25th, 2008. Mullen became a detective in 2012. During his 15 years with the department, Mullen has earned many division letters, letters of appreciation, supervisory notices, and a life-saving award. Mullen has a bachelor's degree in communications from the University of Iowa. With his promotion, Sergeant Mullen will be assigned to East Patrol Watch 1. Promotion to Sergeant, Gerald Steele. Officer Gerald Steele joined the Kansas City, Missouri Police Department as an entrant officer on June 28, 1999. He graduated from the police academy in December of that year. During his 23 years with the department, Steele has earned multiple Chief's Letters of Commendation, Division Letters of Commendation, and supervisory notices. Steele served 4 years in the United States Air Force and received an Air Force Achievement Medal for heroism. With his promotion, Sergeant Steele will be assigned to East Patrol Watch 1. Promotion to Sergeant, Belkis Cisneros. Officer Belkis Cisneros joined the Kansas City, Missouri Police Department as an entrant officer on May 20th, 2013, before going on limited duty. She graduated from the police academy in August of 2014 and became a detective in January of 2019. During her 9 years with the department, Cisneros has earned a Bronze Award for Valor from the Metropolitan Chiefs and Sheriffs Association, a Certificate of Commendation, along with multiple other awards and letters. With her promotion, Sergeant Cisneros will be assigned to Metro Patrol Watch 1. Promotion to Operations Manager, Mark Crawford. Civilian Mark Crawford joined the Kansas City, Missouri Police Department on June 26, 1995, as an automotive servicer. He became an auto parts crew leader in 1997 and fleet operation technician in 2006. Crawford was promoted to operations supervisor in 2011, fleet operations assistant manager in 2018, and operations supervisor in 2022. During his 27 years with the department, Crawford has earned 34 letters of commendation and supervisory notices. He has also served 4 years in the United States Marine Corps. With his promotion in March to operations manager, civilian Crawford will be assigned to fleet operations.
Since they're family and friends here, we're going to take about 3 minutes, take some pictures, and we'll reconvene. This is such a stoic meeting. I thought, well, let's break this. Take a few pictures.
No. Is that what you say? Then you give them next month. That's what I've been told. We'll see. I've heard that. I don't care. Good luck.
Don't worry, have a meeting. Yes.
His legs went like this. He had to have his suits all fixed.
Skin grade. No. We'll be in college next fall.
We have presentation by Healthcare Benefits Renewal Locked-in Companies. Healthcare renewal presentation by Locked-in Companies.
Good morning.
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 My name is Matt Tritz. I'm a Senior Vice President at Lockton here in town, and we represent the Board of Police Commissioners in the insurance market. So today what I'm here to do is just walk through the insurance renewals. They renew on May 1st every year. We spend the bulk of our time talking about the medical insurance renewal. This is just a quick summary list of the benefits that are offered to the department. And you can see when the renewal dates are, and we've got some in blue here. So most of the time will be a medical prescription drug discussion, the Blue Cross Blue Shield program. And then the other lines in blue that are renewing is the life insurance and the long-term disability that is with the standard. The other lines of coverage are on rate guarantee, and there's no action needed for those. So this is a summary of kind of the renewal process that we've gone through for the last couple of months, both with the Insurance Committee, Finance Committee, and with Blue Cross and Blue Shield. Blue Cross Blue Shield initially called for a 13.6% increase to the medical prescription drug plan. That's what their underwriting called for. They issued a renewal for well, as part of the negotiation that we were in last year, we had a rate cap, so they were not allowed to issue a renewal higher than 9.9. We did negotiate the renewal as is to 8.9 with no changes to benefits, so that's what the renewal came out at. Of note, the plan is running at 103% loss ratio over the last 12 months, so what that means basically is Blue Cross Blue Shield is paying out more in claims than we're paying in premium, right now. So for a frame of reference, cost for the insurance is on the claims piece is 10 to 12% higher right now than it was last year. So it's trending up. Looking ahead into next year, we do have an opportunity to secure another rate cap of 12.9. And while that doesn't look attractive, it is important with the 24-25 renewal. Kind of following on our strategy, we introduced a new plan option last year for employees to enroll in the EPO plan. And it was good success. About 15% of those in the program enrolled in that, which is about 300 people. And it did produce some savings for the department, premium savings. Blue Cross is aware of that effort and they're appreciative of that, which is why they were willing to propose the 12.9% if we're successful in continuing to enroll people in that program. And we'll get into details there. On the bottom is the dollars. You can see the annual premium for this program is $39.5 million. So yeah, we're ended up at $39.2 million gross premium. Is the 8.9. So moving on to the recommendation and what we're going to do with the renewal. It's the recommendation by the Chief Appointed Healthcare and Dental Committee to renew the program with Blue Cross Blue Shield of Kansas City with the following plan design changes and cost share strategy. So we'll just run through these kind of minor details with the HMO plan. We are recommending to insert a hospital copay, $200 per visit copay with a limit of 5, so there's a cap on it. We also are going to put in a out-of-pocket maximum, $2,500 per individual, $5,000 per family, which actually is a protection for the employees. A slight increase to the emergency room copay of $50, and an increase to the HMO cost share, by 1%. We're also proposing to freeze the HMO plan enrollment, which basically means everybody that's in that plan is fine. If they choose to keep it, they still can't have that choice to keep it, but we're not going to allow new enrollees to choose that program. Also going to remove the Spira Care plan and simply administrative. Very few are enrolled in that plan, so administering another plan for 15 people administratively burdensome. So we're going to remove that as an option. And then no increase to those that chose the EPO plan last year. It was a new program. We're proposing no increase on the payroll deduction for that EPO plan for next year. So we have a short summary just below of the HMO proposed recommendations. So you can see how that looks in the plan design.
Explain to me what the difference is between the HMO and the EPO.
Yeah, sure. So great question. It's mainly the network. So the choice of hospitals and doctors in the network. The HMO has a few more than the EPO. The EPO is what we'll call a high performance network, and Blue Cross has had this network available for purchase for a number of years, probably close to 10 years. So it was a new benefit or a new option for employees last year. But the main difference is options. And then also, because it is a higher performance network, the claim costs, they negotiate preferred pricing. For those hospitals that participate in that narrow network, we get a premium discount for that network.
But the employees and officers seem to like that.
Yeah, so feedback has been pretty good, like about 300 people enrolled in that program. And the key piece of understanding that as an option is just education, so that you choose a network, which I'll get into those options in a minute, but you choose a network that has the doctors and hospitals in it that you want to go to.
Sorry to interrupt.
No, you're fine. Thank you. Here it is. Here's your network slide. So this is just a reset on the options that are available when folks come onto the department or during open enrollment, what they can pick. So Preferred Care Blue is a network. That's the PPO network. Blue Care is the HMO. So, in-network only coverage. And then Blue Select Plus is that EPO plan network. So that's the high performance network that we just talked about. That's the new option. Kind of back to the education point, we gave you a little data on the bottom. For example, in Preferred Care Blue, we know that 70% of PPO claims that are in the PPO network would still be in network in the EPO, and therefore that would offer a savings to the department and to the employee. So there's even more in the HMO. 88% of HMO claim counts are in the Blue Select Plus network, so there's a high overlap. So we're going to continue the education effort that we started last year so that everybody understands that there is an opportunity to save money if this network is appropriate for them. And down on the bottom, I might just call out before we move on, for a family, this isn't the bottom right, the annual employee contribution savings, a family can save up to $1,200 per year if they pick that versus the HMO plan on a payroll deduction savings. So it's a significant savings.
So the savings comes from the out-of-pocket expense?
No,
or-
the savings is actually the payroll deduction. So the part, that comes out of the paycheck that funds the health insurance. Yeah, so that's, that would be money back in the enrolled's pocket. So a lot of numbers on this slide, so I'll kind of take this one slow. But this is intended to illustrate, on the left in the pink, the current rates, what the current premium is, what the current employee contribution, I've said payroll deduction, same thing. The percentage split, so how much of the premium the employee pays versus the board, and then the net Board of Police cost. And then we move over, and then, going down, it's got the PPO plan, the SPIRA plan, the HMO plan, and the EPO plan kind of in gray bars. So you can see how many are enrolled in each plan by tier. And then on, excuse me, on the right side is the proposed renewal rates. So just kind of moving, to the bottom, with the changes that are being proposed for approval, the premium increase from current would be 5.9 instead of the 8.9. So just for easy math, the proposed with no changes as is 8.9. If we make those few plan design tweaks, and if nobody else enrolls in the PPO or in the EPO plan, it would be a 5.9% increase. So we do anticipate that there will be additional migration into that EPO plan, which would further reduce that increase. That's really the summary of the Blue Cross Blue Shield program. Are there any other questions about that program? Be happy to take any if you have any.
I want to ask the chief. Chief, who is on that committee? It says chief appointed committee. Who serves to negotiate?
That's our benefits committee or people from HR, but also labor. Labor was heavily involved in reviewing this, discussing it, and they approve of the change.
And a quick question on the 6%, is that pretty standard nationwide? I mean, because I know for our group healthcare, its average is about 6% a year.
Yeah. So this one really is 6% after plan design changes. So it's a little high, but considering the other factors that go into that, you're running at 103% loss ratio, right? With a great benefit program with good choices. I think this is a very fair renewal.
So what's the process that you all take to make sure that our employees are educated in which is the best for their families?
Yeah. So multiple avenues that we use. They use department meetings where we're actually communicating, and it's coming down from the department, into the officers. The Human Resources Department has a substantial communication effort through open enrollment with meeting one-on-one with employees, distributing information via flyers. This year also we're going to supplement that. Our organization has opened up, a benefit counseling sessions where officers will actually be able to pick an appointment and call in directly to one of our staff members to make sure they understand those network options. So there's an array of opportunities, educational opportunities. Okay, thank you. This one's much easier. This is the life insurance and disability renewal. So the department has had a contract with the Standard for a number of years, maybe going on 10 years. This was up for renewal this year. We are recommending that we approve renewal to this. It's a 6% increase to the premium. And looking at the loss ratio on this one, this is also a fair renewal. A couple years ago when we negotiated it, actually, they reduced the premium down about the same amount that they're asking for an increase this time. So it kind of validates how they've priced this in the market. They gave us a reduction a couple years ago. Now they're asking, for it back basically. So we're recommending that you extend this contract with Standard. That's all the information I have.
So what are the particulars on this life and disability?
Just about the loss ratio.
Yeah.
Yeah, so life insurance claims, same type of thing. Life insurance claims exceeded the premium, right, for the past couple of years. They have a target loss ratio for the insurance company, and we've just exceeded it. So this has been a benefit to the department to have this coverage.
What benefit specific does it provide to our officers and our civilians? Like, we had an officer that passed away recently. What benefit for him or others like him did they receive?
Marcus, you want to talk to the life insurance process?
Those benefits are extended through some of our functional level staff and through our funeral coordinator staff. So we have a group that sits down and puts those entire packets together. And then we also work with, in Officer Mulberry's case, we also work with several other government and non-governmental agencies to extend benefits to them. So I don't have the exact numbers. In a lot of these instances, especially in Officer Mulberry's incident, when we have a line of duty death that also has an accident involved in it, there's like a double indemnity payment. So it's a pretty significant benefit. For me to give you exact numbers on that, I have to present that to you, and I can follow up with the deputy chief so they have that for you.
So are they automatically signed up in that, or is that a choice? They have to
They are. So one of
choose
the,
that?
they have to accept it, but they are automatically set up in that. That's one of the things that we do during our onboarding process for any of our new employees. We meet with them and we discuss the options that they have for both the healthcare benefit and for life insurance. So those are things that they have to accept to take advantage of the benefit, but we counsel them during our onboarding process. So everyone's presented with this information.
And they don't have to pay anything for the life insurance.
I don't believe so.
Thank you.
So David, do we need to?
Yes, we need
have a motion on this?
We need to vote to approve.
I move that we approve the life insurance and the health insurance proposal.
I second it.
Been moved and second. All in favor by sign of aye.
Aye.
All opposed by no. Ayes have it. Is the mayor on yet? Okay. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. Second quarter Community Policing and Prevention Fund update to Mr. Douglas Jones, City Auditor.
Good morning, Board President Tolbert, members of the Board of Police Commissioners, Doug Jones, City Auditor. I'm here to present our audit of the Police Department spending from the Community Policing and Prevention Fund for the second quarter of 2023. I will discuss the audit objectives, provide some background, and summarize our findings. Copies of the audit report, the highlights page, and presentation slides should be in tab B of your board book. The team for this audit was Jonathan LeCure, Beth Pauley, and Vivian Z. In March 2022, the City Council passed Ordinance 220216, creating the Community Policing and Prevention Fund. The ordinance also directed the City Auditor to conduct quarterly audits of the Board of Police Commissioners' efforts to meet the city's expectations as outlined in the ordinance and report to the council as soon as practical after the close of each fiscal quarter. Our audit focuses on whether the police department spent the CPP fund as expected by the council during the quarter. To answer the objective, we assessed the method the department developed for reporting the fund spending, summarized all reporting categories. For the second quarter, we verified whether officers and staff were assigned the dedicated patrol and community outreach in Kansas City, police crime lab expenses, and newly hired officers as reported. We conducted the audit in accordance with government auditing standards, with the exception of reporting the views of management concerning the audit, because we do not make any recommendations in this report. Ordinance 220216 establishes the city's expectations regarding the police department's expenditures of $33.36 million in the 12 categories shown on this slide during fiscal year 2023. Police Department reported allocating about 21% of the Community Policing and Prevention Fund in the second quarter. The department spent about half of the CPP fund through the second quarter of the fiscal year. A summary of spending allocated to each category is shown in Exhibit 1 on page 3 of the report. Hiring at least 88 new officers was a city expectation. The Police Department reported allocating personnel expenses of $733,246 for 36 new officers to the CPP fund during the first and second quarters. Officers from one academy class graduated during the second quarter and began working at various patrol units. The City Council may not have expected the department to include an academy class that began in the previous fiscal year in the category for hiring at least 88 new officers. Academy Class 174 began February 2nd, 2022, prior to the passage of the CPP fund, and the department began charging Class 174 to the fund on May 1st, 2022. The Police Fiscal Division considers Class 174 to be part of the goal to hire 88 new officers. City Council discussion of the fund in March 2022 clarified their expectation that academy classes funded by this ordinance would begin on or after May 1st, 2022. The CPP fund provides the police department with $4 million to hire at least 88 new officers during fiscal year 2023. The department has begun or graduated 2 classes, totaling 36 officers through the second quarter. The department has started or planned 3 additional classes through the end of the fiscal year. Based on the number of officers enrolled in each class, we project the department's total expenditures in the CPPF new officer hiring category to reach no more than $2.5 million out of the $4 million allocated to this category for fiscal year 2023. We verified spending in the dedicated patrol and community outreach staff category. The department reported allocating personnel expenses of a little over $684,000 for 17 officers assigned to different patrol divisions and 12 officers assigned to community interaction activities at patrol divisions. Another city expectation was police crime lab, including DNA software, detection software. The department reported allocating about $886,000 in personnel costs to the police crime laboratory expenses. The lab director reported they did not purchase any DNA software during 2023. The department spent all $2 million of the appropriated fund to this CPP category by the end of the second quarter. Remaining expenditures for this quarter and future quarters will be covered by the department's general fund. A breakdown of how the department allocated expenses to each of the remaining community policing and prevention fund categories for the second quarter starts on page 7 of the report, and we plan to verify the expenses for some of these categories in future quarters. Again, we did not request a response from the department because we did not make any recommendations. However, we did share and discuss the draft with management. I do want to thank staff and management of the police department and the city's finance department for their cooperation and input throughout this audit. This concludes my presentation. What questions do you have about the audit?
I don't have any.
I read over it. It was well put together, and looks like you found that we saved some money.
Well, there might be some money left over in that fund, but there's still 2 quarters left to go. So we'll see how it all shakes out in another 2 reports. So the third quarter of fiscal year 2023 did recently wrap up. We have recently received the data from the department, and we're going to start working on the third quarter audit. And next fiscal year, we will finish up with the fourth quarter report as well as an annual wrap up. So that one may take a little longer to get back to you, because if there's any recommendations that we see that we need to make after looking at all 4 of these quarters, we'll put them in that report, and the department would have 30 days or less if they'd like to respond quicker to respond to that, any audit recommendations we make. So that's all I have for you today. If there's no other questions, thank you for your time.
I did have a couple questions. On the DNA software, you said that that was never provided to the crime lab? Because I remember at one point in time, that was supposed to be part of the funds that I think the city was putting together for Casey. It was part of the grant money, or the recovery money. And I know we have Councilwoman Heather Hall here, so maybe she can address that, because I thought that was supposed to be part of that package.
I think he said that we didn't spend the money.
No, we never got it. I mean, it was supposed to be originally, I think, part of that package, and then they pulled it. So that's why I was wondering about that.
Well, the city allocated $2 million to the police crime laboratory, including police detection software. Let me bounce up to that one. So there was a total of $2 million allocated for the crime lab, including the DNA detection software. And what we've learned and been told by staff was the money was spent on staffing in that department and no detection software was purchased.
Okay. And then my other question is, I know typically we do, or we used to do, a reconciliation of the budget midterm as far as, before the budget cycle starts, we do a projection on what it should be. Have we done that on this part of the budget?
That's not part of the scope of this project.
Okay.
Although we did do some projections on what expenditures might look like just within the CPP fund. And that's why we're looking at the 88 officer category. There could be savings of at least $1.5 million or not expended, or it could be fully expended. It just depends on how things happen with the next classes that are coming.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Our mayor's designee today is Councilwoman Heather Hall.
Well, good morning, President Tolbert, members of the board. I'm so glad to be here this morning. Chief Graves, good morning. It's my first time to present in front of you, and welcome as the new chief. We're so happy to have you. Today, I ask for a brief moment of personal privilege. This is my last time I'll be presenting to you before I am done serving on the city council. So I have been coming to you for 8 years, and I'm so honored to have been able to be a part of this community, to serve the people of Kansas City through supporting the Kansas City Police Department, all of our officers. I can't thank you enough for what you do every single day. And I will continue to support you and be there to cheer you on and to do whatever I need to do for you all. But unfortunately, I won't be across the street voting and writing bills to hopefully make your lives better. So I want to thank you for the time we've had together. So I also want to tell you that I will make a commitment to you today that I will work with the Kansas City Police Officers Memorial Foundation, and we will honor Officer Mulbauer and K-9 Champ at the way that they should be respected at that memorial garden. So we will let you know as the time comes that we can put their names on that and honor them for you. So thank you very much. So as I come to you, we are right in the middle of budget times, and that's always our favorite time, as our relationship seems to not always look the best when it comes to the budget. But I do promise you that we are working diligently on the budget. We have met with the police department. They came over and presented to the city council last week during our first week of budget departmental hearings. And we learned some very important information. And so what I will work to do with my colleagues is to ensure that we can work on the $19.5 million discrepancy and see how we can come closer to a better number so that we can make sure that the budget numbers that we approve in March for you will be commensurate with where we need to be to keep our campaign promises of increasing officers and supporting the good pay for the officers that we currently have, as well as for giving you the equipment you need to do your job safely. And as I reminded my colleagues last week, this money isn't just to give you all a whole bunch of money to go out and spend however you want. This is so that each one of you on the police department can protect the 504,000 citizens of Kansas City that we all agreed we'd support and protect. So we're going to continue to do that, and we're going to continue to work on the budget. Commissioner Kramer, to your earlier question, there were Rebuild KC grant dollars that we had originally said we would put toward this funding for the crime lab. And we have had a few negotiations in our line items of our budget for that with the city manager and the mayor. And what I will do today is I will go back and ask where that difference of those dollars is and what that looks like, so I can give you a better answer. I don't have an intelligent answer right this moment, but I'll get that for you. So I'm happy to go over the budget, but quite honestly, I'm probably not the person who has that on their list of things to talk about today. I'm happy to answer any questions or to take any recommendations that you have before you to go back to my colleagues. I do know that some of my colleagues have agreed with me on moving some of the dollars that we talked about, especially jail funds and things like that for the design build, back over to other budget line items. So we are working on that, but if you have anything you'd like to ask or suggest or tell me, I'm open for that. So thank you.
I watched the city council budget meeting on last Thursday, I believe.
Correct.
And first, I appreciate very much your support, not only last Thursday, but while you've been a city council member. Thank you. The police department appreciates your advocacy. But from what you just said, I got the impression from that meeting that the people who spoke all said that money, the police department doesn't run jails or design them or any of that. So that should not be in the police department's budget. So I'm confident that you will persuade the others that
I only need to persuade 6 more, so we're getting there.
Well, but
yes,
thank you.
ma'am.
That meeting was very informative. I appreciate it. And I think a lot of the members of the city council didn't understand that the budget that they were looking at was not the one we sent. They appeared to think that the submitted budget, what they called submitted in your meeting, was one that the department had submitted, and we didn't. We submitted a budget and they changed it dramatically, and that's what the city council saw. So
Right.
I appreciated that was clarified in that meeting.
Yes, thank you. And I do believe that Deputy Chief McCollum and his team have done a great job reaching out to all of my colleagues to request those meetings to make sure that we were informed, because while I think we're all very intelligent people in our own right, we're all not budget professionals. And we needed to hear that from him and his team to explain how that worked. And Christine did an extraordinary job helping me understand. I think she's in the audience. So we need all the help we can get to understand the numbers. It's not an easy budget to understand, and there's a lot of money and a lot of different line items.
Thank you very much.
Absolutely. So, thank you. All right. Have a
Thank
good
you
day.
for what you do and speaking up for us and being there. All your support is really appreciated.
Well, I will always do that, and I will continue to do that. And I pray that our next council that begins on August 1st will also stand up for the people of Kansas City through supporting law and order, like they all are campaigning that they will. So, thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman Hall. Investigations Bureau, Deputy Chief Luis Ortiz.
Good morning, Commissioners.
All right.
My information is under tab C in your books. On the following pages, you will find today's daily homicide analysis report, or blue sheet with some information. You will see that in 2023, we had 23 homicides compared with 25 in 2022. The 5-year average homicide is 22. For comparison purposes, we had 22 homicides in 2021, 24 homicides in 2020, and 22 homicides in 2019. We also cleared 5 homicides in the current year and 1 from a previous year, for a total of 6 cases clear in 2023. You also have a copy of the non-fatal shooting comparison report. You will find that from January 1st to today's date, there were 71 non-fatal shooting victims. In 2022, we had 61 victims during the same time period, which is 16% compared to last year, up. In January 2023, we had 39 non-fatal shooting victims compared to 42 in January of the previous year. That is a decrease of 7% for the month. Please direct your attention now to the January 2022 non-fatal shooting report listed under tab C on page 2. You will see on your report that of the 39 non-fatal shooting victims in January, 32 were cooperative. That's 82% of the victims were cooperating with us at the time of the incident. Black males accounted for the highest number of non-fatal shooting victims with 18, or 46%. White males were second with 12 victims, or 31%. White females were third with 10%, and the rest were Black females. The age groups with the highest number of non-fatal shooting victims was 25 to 34 with 15. 18 to 24 was second with 11. The third highest age group was 35 to 44 with 8. Next was 45 and older with 4, and the 17 and younger age group had 1. We identified 10 suspects. 6 of them were Black males and 2 were white males. 1 was a white female and 1 was a Black female. There were 5 suspects in the age group of 25 to 34, 3 suspects in the age group of 18 to 24, and 1 in each of the age groups 35 to 44 and 45 and older. On page 5, you will see that recover firearms report. We recovered 195 guns in January 2023 compared to 202 in January 2022. The 5-year average for firearms recovered in January is 204. On page 6 through 16, you will find the monthly case submissions and disposition reports. We submitted a total of 364 cases to county prosecutors. 287 of those cases were to Jackson County, 56 to Clay County, 21 to Platte County, and 0 to Cass County. Prosecutors filed charges in 107 of those cases during the month. 37 cases were charged in custody, and 70 warrants were issued. 5 cases were returned for additional work, and 82 cases were declined. These numbers include cases that were submitted during previous months but were returned in January. Declinations we had, or Special Investigations Division had 31, Violent Crimes Division had 24, Property Crimes had 18, Bomb and Arson had 1. 75 of those declinations were from Jackson County. Insufficient evidence was the main reason, or most cited reason, for declinations with 24, followed by prosecutor discretion with 18.
What does the prosecutor discretion mean?
That means that they review the case and in their agreement with other prosecutors, the case that we have as we presented it with the evidence that we have, let's say that we have one person as a witness only, and that reliability on that witness is questionable. They are not convinced that they will convince the jury.
Okay, so it's
beyond
not that
reason.
there's insufficient evidence, but,
Correct.
okay.
It's just that they don't feel comfortable that they will convince the jury with the information, with the witness that they have or that we have at that time. You also ask about a breakdown of all these cases, how many declinations we obtained from 2015 until today. We had 27 cases. 11 of those cases are going to be insufficient evidence. And these are for homicides that I'm speaking about. 11 of those are going to be for insufficient evidence. 11 are going to be self-defense. 5 are going to be where the defendant is deceased. So that makes up 27, but that's going back to 2015. That's going to be the number of cases that were declined as far as homicides.
Thank you.
Now, the self-defense for these, can you go into a little bit more detail, not as just any specific case, but more general as to what kind of self-defense the prosecutors are citing as a reason not to prosecute somebody?
In many of these cases, what we see is sometimes the defendant only saying that he was in fear of his life or that he thought the other person had a weapon or that the other person had a weapon and that's why they had to kill the other person. Those are some of the reasons. I understand that sometimes we have to be, or we would like to have some of those homicide committees where they make those decisions. We would like to be in person doing those. And we're working on that with the prosecutor's office. Right now, we do it every Friday and we do it virtually. So we would like to be person to person making those decisions, or at least be part of those decisions. Do you have any more questions about my presentation?
Any other questions? All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That concludes mine.
Thank you. Patrol Bureau, Deputy Chief Joseph Maben.
Morning, Commissioners.
Morning.
Excuse me. My information is under tab D in your books, but you also can follow along with the presentation.
Appreciate that. Thank you.
There's two primary data points that we use to report the time it takes for police to respond to an incident when someone calls 911. The first data point is the average amount of time that it takes for an individual to be connected to a call taker. In other words, 911 hold times. And Deputy Chief McCullum will report on that during the communications update. The second metric we use is the time that it takes for officers physically to respond to a location once a call for service has been entered into the system. That's what we're going to report on from the Patrol Bureau. So if you look at the screen, this is the department-wide median response time report. The top chart shows median response times for priority 10 calls. That's calls that present extreme danger to human life. The median time for January of 2023 was 7.63 minutes, or 7 minutes and 38 seconds. The bottom chart shows median response times for priority 20 calls. That's calls where the potential for danger or injuries exists, but has not yet happened. The median response time for priority 20 calls was 9.37 minutes, or 9 minutes and 22 seconds. This month, we were able to reduce response times for both priority 10 and 20 calls for service compared to the previous month. All right, next slide. You already gone? There you go. This slide shows the median response time for priority 10 and 20 calls broken out by division. You won't see a trend line this month because this report only shows the month of January of 2023. However, I compared the numbers to December of 2022, and we're able to decrease response times to priority 10 calls in Shoal Creek, North Patrol, and Central Patrol Division, and decrease response times for priority 20 calls in all patrol divisions with the exception of North Patrol, which showed a slight increase of 8 seconds. You may want to note that we have just started an in-depth review of staffing levels at our 6 patrol division stations, and the goal is to determine how to best allocate the number of officers across the Bureau to best serve the community as a whole. This review will be pulling CAD data to include calls for service, committed versus non-committed time, reports completed, response times, and many other data points. I anticipate it will be complete within the next 120 days, and then we'll share the results at that time. I would also like to publicly thank Special Agent in Charge Brandon Bridgeforth of the Kansas City Field Division, the United States Secret Service, who has extensive background with logistics and staffing and has graciously offered to assist us with this study as a part of a senior executive development program sponsored by his agency. Moving on to the January 2023 traffic summary report. The chart at the top of this slide shows citywide total crash statistics. In January of 2023, there were reported 1,371 vehicle accidents. That's virtually the same number of accidents as January of 2022. A little bit of good news. The bottom chart shows the number of traffic fatalities in 2023. And in January, we reduced that from last year. We reported 4 in January, and last year it was at 9 at the same time. As of yesterday, there were 10 total traffic fatalities compared to 17 for the same period last year. As you know, this includes the tragic events of February 15th, where Officer Jim Mulbauer and K9 Champ, as well as Mr. Jesse Eckes, were killed. I'd like to personally thank all who attended Officer Mulbauer and Champ's services. And also want to offer my deepest condolences to Mr. Eckes' families and friends. Let's not forget that his loved ones are grieving too. Next slide, there you go. This slide shows fatal crash statistics from January. However, it's hard to draw too many conclusions because it's so early in the year. Now, I mentioned last month that the traffic division was going to report on what they are doing to identify people who are driving under the influence of narcotics. So Officer Sean Hammer of the Traffic Enforcement Squad, 801 Squad, and Officer Jordan Infranca of DUI section will provide that report now.
Good morning, members of the board and command staff.
Morning.
So I am Police Officer Jordan Franco with the DUI section. I'm a 10-year veteran with the police department, and I've been with the DUI section since April of 2019. And this is Police Officer Sean Hammer. You want to introduce yourself, Sean?
Good morning. Sean Hammer, I've been with the department since 2000. I've been a DRE. We'll talk about what that is here in a few minutes. Since 2000 from a previous agency. I currently sit on the Missouri Technical Advisory Panel for the DRE program, the SFST program. I've been on that board since 2006. I've been a DRE instructor since 2003. I've trained almost every DRE in the department since 2003. I spent 6 years in the DUI unit. I'm currently in the traffic enforcement unit assigned to the motorcycle.
And today we're just going to give you a brief introduction onto what drug impaired driving is, what tests we can do to look for drug impaired driving, the education we're going to give to our police officers and our community, and some technology that we use to combat drug impaired driving. This is the objectives today that we're going to cover. First and foremost, a little bit of statistics, which Deputy Chief Maben touched on. I'm going to touch base here on the 81 fatality crashes that happened in 2021. There were 85 lives taken, and out of the 81 fatal crashes, we can confirm through toxicology reports that 57% of the drivers involved in the fatal crashes were impaired, so well over half. So that's quite a big number, and hopefully we can try and reduce that through some education and training throughout the years. 2022 is going to be an unofficial result. We still have some toxicology results that are pending. We don't have all of the reports back. And so this is just going to give us an unofficial number. But right now, we're looking at 35.9% of the drivers involved in fatal crashes were impaired. We're not going to go on serious injury crashes. So we're only focusing on just loss of life for these incidents. I'll touch base. In 2021, the most common drugs used besides alcohol were cannabis, marijuana, and PCP. Those were the two top drugs besides alcohol that we found in people's toxicology results. So some of the training, technology, and education that we're going to use to implement to our community and to our police department. First and foremost, are going to be your standardized field sobriety test. Our standardized field sobriety tests are our core of our DUI investigation. Your standardized field sobriety tests are 3 tests. It's going to be the horizontal gaze and nystagmus test, where we're going to look at the individual's eyes. One will be the walk and turn test, which is a walking test where we'll look for signs of impairment. And then the third is going to be the one-leg stand test. Those 3 tests have been proven through NHTSA and through various field studies, and that they can find impaired drivers through alcohol and drug impairment. We teach our recruits at the academy standardized field sobriety tests. They're going to get proficient in those standardized field sobriety tests. We'll teach them how to locate a drunk driver, what to look for, signs and observations of impairment, and then they'll typically do a test run of that, be proficient of that, and then test out. We all know as police officers, we wear several hats on this department. We do several things every single day for our community. Practicing standardized field sobriety tests is extremely important. It's a diminishable skill, and you got to have some confidence to do it. As those skills, if you don't do them on a constant basis, then they're going to diminish. So our job is to refresh our police officers, and we can do that through roll call training. I would be contacted by a captain or a sergeant or the officer themselves, and I can go to a roll call, and we can go through the standardized field sobriety test. We can go through some DUI investigation questions just to bring our officers up to speed on proficiency and being fluent and confident doing standardized field sobriety tests. Officer Hammer is going to talk about the ARIDE program. He's an expert in that field. And then I have a SOTOXA mobile drug analyzing instrument with us. What it is, it's a roadside instrument using a saliva swab that we can do roadside, and we can collect a voluntary saliva sample, and within 5 minutes, we can get a definitive number. Correction, it's not a definitive number, but we will get an accurate representation of what drug or drugs is in that person's body at that time within 5 minutes. And then we have some community engagement through our youth alcohol and youth drug programs that we'll do. So I'm going to turn it over to Sean, and he can talk about ARIDE.
Sure. If you want to roll and then, because some.
Okay, great. So I'm going to jump forward here to some training classes that we have for our patrol officers. Sean Hammer is going to be teaching an ARIDE course March 9th and 10th, March 14th and 15th. And then we have a standardized field sobriety test refresher March 8th and March 13th. As the year goes on, we will find time and training slots available so we can continue to train our officers throughout the year. But this is what we have available right now for the month of March. So one of the things we were trying to do with our police officers and our community is we want to explain to them that a alcohol impaired driver and a drug impaired driver are very similar, but there are some subtle differences. And by the educational training and ARIDE training and the youth programs, we can give a better explanation to them on what the differences are between a drug impaired driver and an alcohol impaired driver. So this is the SOTOXA. It's an oral fluid mobile drug testing system. It will test for 6 out of the 7 drug categories. The only drug category that's not going to be tested for is our dissociative anesthetics, which is what like PCP and ketamine is going to be under. The SOTOXA device utilizes saliva swab. So what we'll do is the officer will complete a DUI investigation. We'll do roadside field sobriety tests, and we will ask the individual if they want to consent to a SOTOXA saliva swab. They can perform it in a patrol wagon or in my police car. We'll gather the swab, insert the swab into our SOTOXA instrument, and within 5 minutes, it will give us an accurate reading of what drugs or combination of drugs are in their system. We currently have 4 of them. I have 1, and 2 other DUI officers have the SOTOXA, and then our accident investigation section shares a SOTOXA as well when they go out on their fatal and serious injury crash callouts. So our youth alcohol program, youth drug program, it is going to be, it's implemented anywhere the community wants us. We'll go to area high schools, we go to job fairs, we go to health fairs, anywhere the community wants education or information on impairment, whether it be alcohol impairment or drug impairment, we will be there. We go over the average cost of a DUI. How much you're looking at, how much it costs to obtain an attorney or court cost. What are the repercussions? Will you have your driver's license revoked? Will your driver's license be suspended? Do you have to take certain classes to get your driver's license back? We can touch base on all of that. We can show you pictures or sometimes video evidence of what a fatal crash looks like, and the harsh reality of what happens if you drive impaired. Like I say, we are gearing this toward our youth, but a lot of the time the parents that are there have a lot of questions and information as well. So we just try and bring our knowledge to the community and explain to them the repercussions and what could happen of driving impaired. These are the events that we have coming up. Our first event is going to be Snake Saturday. We are going to be partnering with North Kansas City Police. We're going to have a static display at the Snake Saturday parade. We're going to have our mobile command center out, and officers are going to be present to answer and discuss anything related to alcohol or drug impairment. And then we're going to be at some area high schools. Our last event in April is at Platte County. And it looks like we're going to have more presentations at East Patrol and our regional police academy. Forgive me about March 31st. I don't have a location on that yet. So apologies to the board. I'm going to get ready to turn it over here to Officer Hammer, and he's going to discuss with you the roles and responsibilities of a DRE and what our advanced roadside impairment course is like through ARIDE.
Let me ask you, what happens when a person declines the swab?
Based off that officer's training, they shouldn't have to do the swab. The preliminary swab of the Sotoxa aids in the investigation. It shouldn't be the forefront or the final decision to place that person under arrest. We should have additional evidence to proceed in our investigation or not. So, yes, ma'am.
When our officer and the canine officer were killed in an accident,
Yes.
were you able to take toxicology at that time?
So it's still an ongoing investigation. I am not a part of the investigation myself, but I do know that we did everything we are, and we have done things to looking into that person's possible impairment and looking at blood toxicology results. But that's really all I can really talk about in regards to that matter, okay?
I don't want you to say anything you're not supposed to.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you so much for that. Any other questions?
One question.
sir.
If you refuse blood alcohol, the blowing and the sensor,
Breath
you
instrument?
can have your license suspended. Is the same thing applied to the drug test?
So
Swab?
So Missouri, the swab, you can refuse the swab. The Sotoxa swab is not a evidentiary test. It's only used as a preliminary breath test. So it's pre-arrest. It's just used as an aid to an aid in our investigation. So you can refuse the Sotoxa several times, but other field sobriety tests, should be conducted first to see if a person is actually showing signs of impairment. So, but to answer your question, yes, you can refuse the Sotoxa without any repercussions to your license or anything like that. I'm going to turn it over to Sean, and he's going to discuss ARIDE and the roles of a DRE.
Good morning. Morning. I go a little further. The Suboxone is like a PBT, if you're familiar with that, preliminary breath test for alcohol. That's essentially what it is. You can refuse a PBT, you can refuse that as well. The training that he's speaking of to get to that point, we cross our T's, dot our I's, instead of dotting our T's and crossing our I's. We got to do things right. We got to do things to get to the point to this drug testing. That's where the ARIDE and the DRE program come into play. ARIDE is Advanced Roadside Impaired Driving Enforcement. It's a 2-day class, 16-hour class. The manual is 400 pages. That gives you an idea of the training. It goes into in-depth SFSTs and adds a few more for drug-related impairment. For an example, cannabis does not cause horizontal gaze nystagmus. You've seen the finger across the eye. Cannabis does not do that. Marijuana does not do that. But If you have somebody close their eyes that have been smoking marijuana, their eyelids flutter. Their pupils will be dilated. Their eyes can't cross. There's other things that we can look for that's not present in alcohol. Some of those things are present in alcohol, some are not. So the A-Ride class goes through 7 drug categories: depressants, stimulants, hallucinogens, dissociative anesthetics, narcotics, inhalants, and cannabis, and breaks those down. So the A-Ride is the beginning. The DRE is what it says, drug recognition expert. So it's a SFST, A-Ride, DRE to get us to where we can evaluate somebody that's under the influence of drugs and determine the impairment level to match with what we're seeing. Alcohol, we have this little test, you blow into it, gives us a number. We have a state per se law, 0.08. We don't have a magic number that we can test, get a blood. The Suboxone says, yes, it's there. I can blow into a PBT and blow a 0.04. Yes, it's there. Legally, I'm not impaired. Kind of the same things. DRE comes in, we do all these tests, field sobriety test to determine, yes, there is impairment. That drug is psychoactive in their body at that time, causing that impairment. Some other drugs stay in your system for an extended period of time. They may show up on a test. Doesn't necessarily mean that you were impaired at that time, if that makes sense. So, put my glasses on so I can see here. DRE detecting identified persons under the influence of drug. So I covered the categories. You can look at the picture here. I think we know who this is. We know the situation involving this in California. Is the person impaired? Can he operate a motor vehicle safely? I think the crash determined that he probably wasn't. Some tests were done. DREs conducted evaluations. We do this in a controlled environment at the station. We just don't do this roadside because a DRE, when you get to a DRE process, I'm taking blood pressure, pulse rates, body temperature, eye examinations of pupil sizes in 3 different conditions. It's kind of a mini medical evaluation, if you will. To determine if somebody's under the influence of a drug. It's much more detailed than just simply alcohol. This is the 12-step process for the drug evaluation classification program. You'll hear this DEC, DRE. It's it's a government program. They have all these letter acronyms. But basically, we start with a breath test. We talk to the arresting officer to find out what they observe, because some drugs are short-lived. You may have impairment for 15 minutes. Inhalants, for example. You suck on canned air, you're impaired. You're doing it while you're driving, you're impaired. You get them into a sterile environment, 15 minutes later, they're clear-headed. So we got to talk to the officer to see what they saw at the scene, which may relate to our investigation later. Preliminary examination of the pulse rate, examine the eyes. The eyes are the key to everything. For these tests. The eyes will tell you a lot. Dilated pupils, horizontal gaze nystagmus, pupil size is different for medical conditions. Divided attention, the SFSTs, vital signs, pulse, darkroom examination, that's an eye examination. Muscle tone, some muscles will cause the muscles to be mush, real soft. Others will cause them to be real stiff and rigid. So that's a sign of drug use. Check for injection sites, various ways of ingesting drugs. After you've done the first 9, you have gathered enough information to formulate kind of an opinion in your head and then interview this individual and see what they have to say about it. A lot of times when I confront somebody with what I've seen, like, yeah, that's what I was on. How'd you know that? Well, I've been doing this a while. So it helps. Then I form my opinion. I get my toxicology. Just like in a DUI, if they refuse the toxicology, the blood sample for the DRE, I can take their license for a year. Okay. So it falls under the same guidelines. I can ask for 2 tests, usually breath tests, blood. If they refuse either one of those, their license is gone. This is our DRE matrix. This is the card that we use. The pupilometer, the circles at the top have the pupil sizes in millimeters. Each category explains what's there, what's not there, what you're going to see, what you're not going to see. If you have one category, it's usually pretty easy. Like Officer Franco talked about, cannabis and PCP, two different things. two different spectrums. So you're going to see a mixture of drugs. We go through this to figure that out. It's not always easy. These are the area agencies that we've helped and assisted. Being the regional coordinator, I have troops A and H in Missouri that I'm in control of. I'm in charge of the DREs. I've trained, like I said, a couple people in this room I've trained to be DREs, and I supervise. We have a few other DREs for this agencies, not all of them though, but our unit has helped them. I'm a little more old school, if you couldn't tell by the beard. I have printouts of the DRE requirements, what it takes to apply to get into a DRE school. We have one starting next month in Jefferson City. We only hold 2 a year based on budgets. This next school has 25 people in it. We're trying to get 29 if we can get the money. Also in here is a synopsis of the A-RIDE program, which it's the mid-grounds. We're trying to teach officers on our department the A-RIDE so they are more proficient and able to recognize drug-impaired people easier, quicker, and document that in a sufficient manner so we don't have the issues in court as to how did you come to this conclusion? Well, based on my training, this is what I came to. Okay. Any questions?
So how do you differentiate between a person who is driving impaired and a person who is on medicine? They probably shouldn't be driving, but
The definition of a drug for the DRE program is any substance taken into your body which impairs your ability to drive a motor vehicle safely. Xanax, I've arrested people for driving on Xanax. Codeine, I've arrested people for driving on pre-workout. People take this stimulant to go to the gym to work out. It's a stimulant. This guy took a lot, and he looked and acted very much similar to somebody on the influence of meth or cocaine. Okay, he's impaired. Young children, even adults, huff gas. Get impaired by huffing gas. So there's a very large spectrum of drugs out there. Drugs, some we think of, some we don't. There's multiple drugs in this room right now that can impair you. Markers, pens, cleaning supplies. So being able to evaluate somebody and determine that category is easy, but I've trained enough people to know that it can be done.
interesting.
It should be that way. If they're impaired, it doesn't matter if the doctor gave them the prescription or they bought it on the street. If they're impaired, they should not be driving.
Correct. And a lot of substances they take to impair themselves do not come back in a drug test. We have had to send drug sample or blood samples to NMS labs in Pennsylvania for testing because the local labs couldn't find it. Even benzodiazepines, depressants, antidepressants. There's so many of those that if we don't tell the toxicologist, hey, I think it's this, they may not find it. But yet I've done my job and I've determined they are impaired. This is the proof. If we have a toxicology, excellent. If we don't, I shouldn't need it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank
I
you
will
very
leave
much.
these
Very
here if you'd
interesting
like to look
report.
at them and
Leave them with
Love to have one
Bethany.
of those, yeah.
Now we'll have a brief presentation by Sergeant Andrew Gore of the Community Engagement Division.
Good morning to the board and the command staff.
Morning.
We have a short video we'll show you, and then I have a couple line items, and I'll be concluding. for the Community Engagement Division. I want to give a shout out to Officer Ali Swaggart, who's the coach of the Powell Panthers. You know, take me being a police officer out of this, or all of us out of it. Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. Take all of us being police officers out of the equation here, but as a father, as a parent, as a citizen of this community, to see those boys get up there and their hard work come to fruition and be successful and actually see it come full circle is really exciting. Second item, we were in a staff meeting yesterday, and Officer Ryan Swope's name kept coming up about all the great work he's doing. Officer Swope is a school resource officer at Southeast High School. I heard nothing. He works actually directly for Sergeant Kathy Coots. I heard nothing but great things about how the relationship building he's doing with the school, with the students. A couple of specific items that he's been working on as a school resource officer is he's been correlating UCIT with some students directly in correlation with their individual education programs and how the two overlap with the individual students, which I think is really progressive and innovative in what he's doing there. And then a couple of issues that have popped up in schools, and we're kind of seeing this in some different areas across the city, that probably no news to anybody, issues of bullying and intimidation. The issues that he's specifically dealing with are these long-term issues that have been going on with the school and over the course of days and weeks, and he's acting as a liaison between the parents and in the school to try to curb and solve some of these problems. And like I said, these are really like ongoing problems that he's been working on, and we want to thank Officer Swope and all the school resource officers for the work that they're doing for the Community Engagement Division and the community. With community engagement, you see the slides, we see all of the fun stuff that we're doing. There's a lot of behind the scenes work that's going on in community engagement that people are not aware of. And it's not the fun stuff necessarily all the time, but it's massively important to what we're doing as a division. The first item, myself and my partner in crime, which is Sergeant Garen Carter, we are working directly with Captain Cologne in the city liaison's office, and any complaint that goes to the city is given to us, and we're following up on every single one of those complaints. We look at our resources, we look how there be what's available, what the complaint is. It's given to the officer to look into it, and then it comes back to us, and we follow up on everything with Captain Cologne. To extend on that, one of the things we're starting to explore is any existing software programs that we have on the police department, starting to be able to input those, whatever those complaints are, into a software system, so we can start to track them, monitor them, and we can also we could go back at any point in time and show exactly how the officers or the sergeants, whatever it is, handled any of those complaints. Second item that we're working on behind the scenes, in conjunction with Captain Boffman, who is responsible for the RTM or risk terrain modeling, we're starting to look how we can bring some of the environmental factors that we do in community engagement, which was regarding our CPTED surveys, which stands for Crime Prevention Through Environmental Design Surveys that all of our crime-free multi-housing officers do, how they work in conjunction with the RTM modeling that we do. An example would be, we could take a specific problem in any one of the divisions. I go to Captain Boffman, he pulls the RTM data, then we can send our community engagement resources in there and start looking at the environmental issues associated with some of these problems. When you do a CPTED survey, the officers will go in, they'll do a site survey for a business, say if they requested it, it's free of charge. There's a whole list of factors that they look into. They create a document for the business, and that business can do whatever they would like to with the recommendations that come through the CPTED survey. It actually works, and it correlates with the RTM very, very well. So it's something that we're exploring. The third item is the deployment of the Community Engagement Division resources. Last month, when I came to the division, I saw this immediately as a strength of ours being consolidated, and we were able to practice it actually a couple weeks ago. Crimes Against Children came to us of a situation where we had a child up north that they believed was in danger. The investigation had stalled a little bit, and we got together and we decided that what we needed to do was get boots on the ground and really start going door to door. With a couple of phone calls, I brought resources from Center Patrol, Shoal Creek, and Northstone. We consolidated with Crimes Against Children. We actually met up into the neighborhood, and we went door to door, handing out flyers, any information that we could do to try to locate this child. Unfortunately, for this particular incident, we did not locate the child that day, but what it did show us is that we have the ability to quickly pull our resources together from anywhere in the city. We can go to a specific project, target, whatever it might be, do whatever we need to do, and then the resources can go right back to their division stations and continue doing what they need to do. And then the fourth item, and it'll be the last time I'll discuss for this month, is over the weekend, they had their first youth town hall meeting with a group of students at Arts Tech, and they discussed, they had an open town hall meeting for the students over violence in Kansas City, what their concerns were with violence, how the violence affects them, things that they were concerned about. They were given a panel of professionals that got to speak at the presentation, and that was just a really, really great event. Like Major Thompson always tells us every day, this is the year of youth, and this was a great opportunity to take our juveniles and give them a say in their community and what their expectation would be as a citizen of the city. So that concludes my presentation for this month, and I'll be more than willing to answer any questions if anybody has any.
Was that meeting at Arts Tech taped by any chance?
I'm not sure on that, sir, but I can definitely find out for you.
I'd like to see it if it was.
I'll find out for you. Oh, they just said it wasn't taped, sir.
Was not?
Was not.
Okay.
Very good. Thank you.
Thank you.
And do you have any questions for Patrol Bureau?
No, but it was a fabulous parade, and the Patrol Bureau did a wonderful job at the funeral.
Thank you.
And our city looked wonderful both times.
Thank you. That concludes my report.
Thank you. You give yourself a hard act to follow for the next upcoming events. Can't go backwards, that's for sure. Let's see, Administration Bureau Deputy Chief Doug Nehemiah.
Good morning. Our items are under tab E, but however, we have a presentation as well as requested, so you can follow along. And to answer a question from earlier, the question was asked about life insurance. That is at no cost. Captain Smith let me know, and I wanted to make sure we clarify that right away.
Thank you.
All right, the first slide is our current staffing report. We will continue. Many of these slides you're going to see, we're going to continue because it's going to have to do with hiring and other things. I want to make sure the board gets it each and every month. But our current staffing is 1,110 officers. We have 30 police officer candidates at the academy right now, 501 professional staff, and obviously 4 police commissioners members. Law enforcement hiring numbers to date, and mind you, this is 1 month, and I will continue to talk about that in the next few slides of how much progress has been made in the past month. But we currently have officially hired 5 officers for the next class, and I was just told before the board meeting, I believe many of them are sitting in the audience. So if they would please stand up. Yesterday was officially their first day as a member of the Kansas City, Missouri Police Department. We have begun, when we identify a candidate for the academy, even though our next academy class is April the 22nd, we will hire these folks and place them. They are currently in the records unit and started yesterday. However, with the board meeting today, they were brought here for the opportunity to see how the police department is run. And I think it was a great idea by Captain Hahn to do that. So we have hired 5 officially. We have 10 pending job offers that are out waiting to hear. Today as well, we started 3 laterals and 1 rehire back at the academy. They started this morning. So that's 4 additional officers that are at the academy in the lateral process. And I think the big number here is we have 29 additional people in different stages of the hiring process. So when you add those numbers up, this is the potential that we have for that April 22nd class. Now onto the communications hiring. And mind you, remember, this is in 1 month. We currently have 6 hired and in class. Not included in that number is 1 additional. We had one We have one additional to make it 7 in that class due to the fact of an individual was not able to complete the police academy, so they were transferred to the communications unit. So we actually have 7 people in that class as of now. It says job offers pending. It says 5. Last night on my drive home, Ruth Stewart reached out to me, and 2 of those 5 have accepted positions as of last night. And then we have 16 processing to be a call taker dispatcher.
Progress.
Yes, thank you. Keep working at it, but that's important to see.
So these are some of the recruiting events just this month. We went to 13 total events. Some include Benedictine College, Kansas State University, Graceland. We were at the Mavericks hockey game, MCCC, Community School Fair that was at 816 Broadway, College Scholarship Fair, and today the recruiters are down at Mizzou. Also in those pictures, you'll see, and I will just point him out because he works at East Patrol and I happen to know him, but there is Jordan Witzik at K-State. He played baseball there. He went with our recruiters. We're trying to do that with many of our officers. If they played a sport, whether they graduated or they went to a university or any other event, we will get an officer to go with our recruiting folks to that university and help recruit. So the same officers that you see on here are the same officers that are working day in and day out to hire people, not just at recruiting events, but they're also responsible for the paperwork that's being pushed through to keep us on track on placing individuals in our academy class.
I have a question.
Sure.
And when you're done, I would love to have our new recruits come up and tell us what got them in here. Maybe we can learn something from them too, but great job.
Sure. Thank you. This is February the 23rd. We had an additional test, and this was actually done during the day on a Thursday. So I was a little skeptical myself on holding an event on a Thursday during the day, but we had 17 applicants attend. So as you can see, these are the pictures when they take the written test there on the left, and on the bottom, they are taking the written test, and then obviously the obstacle course. And I really need to thank Captain Lamport. He was assigned to employment recently. I've requested, the chief has requested some changes. I requested a lot of changes. Captain Lamport came in and made some changes onto our processes on how we're doing things. But I really want to take just a second and thank him, Sergeant Cutcliffe, Sergeant Bediaco, Officer Hoffman, Damon Harrell, Officer Harrell, our professional staff, and Ruth Stewart, Renee Gatewood, Mindy Davis, Karen Jenkins, Sam Sneed, and Samantha Bieselman. All of this was done in 1 month. And it tells us that, and I will, we implemented weekly meetings a month or so ago. And I will tell you, yesterday or this week, they're like, we're tired. And I go, I bet you are. But we have 2 more months until this academy class, and we need to prove that we can get this done. And we will prove that we can get this done. And I think we also have 5 additional folks that came in to help us do backgrounds. And that was a tremendous amount of work that was taken off in order to push these folks through. So I really want them to know how much I appreciate their work. I know that's a lot of work to be done in 1 month, but if you add up those numbers, we have really almost hired a person per day. Okay, the next item is the Citizens Police Academy will begin on March the 7th. I really enjoy the Citizens Police Academy. I'll be there myself. I believe the chief will be too. So anyone who would like to participate in the Citizens Police Academy can reach out. I believe it's Angela McCune at our academy. You can go online and find that information as well. And the next slide, I want to bring your attention to our wellness program. Our wellness program is for all members. They have really put in a lot of work. The last month. Their response to the hospital, their response, they make daily contacts with members after an event. The next morning, they've assisted with the funeral and long-term arrangement from family members. Following the days, they coordinate all of our briefings and provide referrals to family. This past week was extremely stressful for every single person in our police department. And it wasn't just one event. It was a Super Bowl win is stressful for officers because they're working and working after for the celebration. That evening, we also had an officer shot. The wellness program was involved with that. Then we have a Super Bowl parade. It's joyous, but it's stressful for officers. And then that night, we had the tragic events with Officer Mulbauer and K9 Champ. The wellness section was at every one of these events to assist. And I'd just like to thank Rob Blim and all the rest of the staff at HR who continue to reach out to our employees to make sure that they're doing okay. And our internship program. I saw that the community engagement team beat me to it, but they were actually run out of our bureau. We currently have 3 interns, and again, I was pleasantly surprised. I believe 2 of them are here. Stand up for me. So we started interns. We have 3 this semester, 2 of which have already applied to be a part of our department and going through the process. 1 is law enforcement, one for professional staff. I'd like to thank Sergeant Clark actually ran the internship program last year, and we had 14 interns, 2 of which are going through processes to be hired currently, and many more will be graduating this spring and we know are going to apply. This is the flyer that we have recently put out for our internship program. Sergeant Bobby King has taken on this project, and she doesn't know this, but I'm going to let her explain her own flyer.
Good morning.
Morning.
So, of course, Sergeant Kelly Clark started this program last year. It was a great success. A lot of people learned from it. A lot of people enjoyed the program. And so we wanted to implement it again this year to hopefully get people that are graduating either from college or maybe not sure if they want to go to college. This is an opportunity for them to learn about our department and kind of what we have to offer. So the goal is to be doing the internship for hopefully people that are graduating so that way we can go ahead and hopefully retain them after they graduate. They like our department so much, they want to be part of our department. And there'll be 4 weeks where they will see our department as a whole. They'll go to different division stations. They'll go to patrol divisions. They'll see the IT side. They'll see the crime scene side. They'll see all different sworn, non-sworn sides of our department. And then the remaining 4 weeks, if our staffing allows and the other elements are able to do so, we'll try to put them with that unit that they want to see employment with. And that'll be an opportunity for them to ask as many questions as they want. The 3 interns that we have right now, they haven't really had that opportunity to do that. They've kind of been my little project to figure out what works and what doesn't work. And they've been pretty fluid, especially with the recent events. The schedule hasn't always been spot on for them. So this is just kind of an opportunity to let people get in our department and kind of see what we're all about.
Thank you.
So we'll be starting that. These flyers have gone out to many of the universities that I just mentioned, to include our community colleges and big universities. So we'll be starting to take applications, and we'll start doing interviews here shortly. The last thing that's our last slide, but one thing I would like to update you on is our crime lab. I got an update from last year. The crime lab during 2022 completed over 10,000 reports. They examined 10% more items, and they examined 42,444 items at our lab. They also conducted 74 tours of over 1,300 citizens to have the opportunity to see what we do at the lab. And along with all of the other hiring that HR did, we also hired an additional firearms a person to be in our firearms section. So now that they are fully staffed in our firearms section. So I did want to highlight a few items with the crime lab. With that, that'll conclude my report unless you have any questions about hiring or you would like, they probably don't know, but if you'd like them to come up to the podium, they can
Can we
speak.
just get the four of them to come up and just tell us what got them here real fast?
Yeah, yeah. We got a little time.
Come on up.
Second day on the job.
Yeah, already putting you on the spot.
Already making a
This
presentation
is
to the
police
board.
department.
Yeah.
You never know what's going to happen.
We're glad to have all of you.
We want to be able to, like, help make the city a better place. And,
What?
Is that better? Okay.
Thank you.
I don't know, like, interact with people and help make the city like a better place for, people to live. And I don't know, it sounds kind of cliche.
Tell me your name and where you're from.
Oh, Jackson. I'm from up north.
And Jackson, what made you, besides you wanted to make a difference, did you see an ad or did you just decide this on your own or?
One of my old coworkers was a cop in Topeka, and we just like talk a lot. He kind of sold me on the job.
Great.
Nice, thank you.
How's it going?
Hi.
My name is Josiah Zanievich. I just moved here from Washington State. I had moved here in 2011, and we had been here for 7 years, and I fell in love with Kansas City. It was kind of cool when the Royals won, there was like no crime, like no accidents. That's a hard question. I worked in construction for 10 years. I have 4 kids. I own my own construction company. There's definitely a different kind of stress to that, dealing with customers and time restraints. But to make change, to help people in hard times, my parents were pastors and did mission work and were ministry oriented kind of growing up. So police officer, you're not necessarily like a minister or ministry, but you're dealing with people in their worst time. And you got to make difficult decisions to help people, and people will never forget that. And that's a legacy worth having. So.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Good morning. I started in the medical field right out of high school, and I felt like I wanted to get out in the community a little bit more than what I could offer. And so I started doing ride-alongs over at Lake Winnebago with their PD. And actually one of the officers there I did ride-alongs with, he graduated from the academy in Kansas City. So he kind of got me involved in it more. And I decided that's what I want to do for the rest of my life.
What's your name?
My name is Morgan Davis.
Thank you.
Welcome.
If I could speak to Morgan really quick, I was a biology major myself. So sometimes God has a different plan for you.
Hello, my name's Brooke Haynes. I just graduated from Missouri State in May with my bachelor's in criminology. I've kind of always wanted to be a police officer ever since I was a kid. I think that it's really important to make change in the world, and I know that change doesn't happen overnight, but it can start with one person. And so just to make an impact on those around me has always been really important. And then also, like, obviously police officers, it's a predominant male field. And so we need more women. And then why I chose KC, I actually applied for a different department. And then I did more research on KCPD. I'm not actually from Missouri. So I saw the opportunities and for my future careers, and it just fit well with what I wanted to do. So
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, welcome.
Thank all of you. Yes.
Great.
Glad to have you.
She didn't tell us that you were coming. She didn't warn you. She didn't know we were going to make you get up here. You don't have to blame her.
No, we did not know they would be here today. I'm sure they did not know they were going to be standing at the microphone speaking today. I'm not for sure I could have done that on my second day. I'm not sure I could do it in my 28th year. So,
We did a great job.
yeah. So, any other questions about the hiring or any other questions about HR? Or the
We see progress. That's the main thing. It was kind of stalled for a while, and nobody could tell us how you get through. So excited that there's some progress happening. Any other questions? All right, Executive Services Bureau, Deputy Chief Derek McCullum.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Good morning.
Sorry about that. All items for the Executive Services Bureau are located under tab F of your board book. Item A, liability insurance presentation by Lockton Companies. Lockton Account Manager, Executive Andrew Jensen is here to provide an update to the board on where we are in the liability insurance search process. Andrew Wallace will be available to answer any questions that you may have. Andrew.
Thank you guys for having me. There's nothing on there for me at this point. My name is Andrew Jansen. I work with KCPD on the work comp and property side of things. So I've also been helping to investigate what the law enforcement legal liability could look like for you guys. I wanted to give you a brief update as I know this process has seemed to be a little bit lengthy. We've done a lot of work both on my side and your side, so the update will be forthcoming. Since early December, we've been working with the KCPD to collect a very detailed 10-year loss summary. This loss data needs to be detailed and comprehensive as this line of coverage is underwritten very carefully given the nature of these claims. It took some time working with cooperation with the KCPD to get the data where we could present it to the marketplace. This marketplace is very limited for an account of your size. So there's only a few markets we can go to and the data needs to be very specific in order for them to provide a quote to us. We completed organizing the 10 years of loss data last week and we presented it to the marketplace. We currently have submissions and loss data to the top 5 markets in this space. They are currently reviewing the risk and we expect formalized premiums and limits to come within the next 2 to 3 weeks. Given that there are 5 open claims that are large from 2019 and 1 large open claim from 2020, we anticipate that those will still trend upwards over the next few years. And our early indications from the market are that they would like to attach it a retention point of $5 million.
I'm sorry, what does that mean?
So that would be the first $5 million would be on the KCPD, that's your money, and then the excess insurance would sit above that. And these are very early indications from our conversations. But the way we see this structured would be $5 million of police funds, $5 million excess with AIG, and then $5 additional million with Kinsale. So $10 million total above a $5 million deductible or retention.
Is that per year or per claim?
That would be per claim.
5 million per claim.
Correct. So these are very early indications. We're still working through this. There's other markets that we're talking to. So this will be ever evolving. But currently, based on the loss data that we've seen, that's what the carriers are recommending as a $5 million attachment point.
So anything that happens, the first 5 million we pay, and we pay a premium for anything above that?
Correct.
Okay,
Correct.
I got it.
Yep.
I have a quick question.
And do attorney's fees come off of that 5 million then?
That would be all included. So when we look at the loss data, we look at the, what judgments have been awarded, what settlements there have been, but also the expenses that are incurred from legal. So that all works to erode that $5 million. So what you're looking at is, a very severe claim to where this insurance will kick in. When you kind of dig into the loss data, there's been quite a bit of activity within that $1 to $5 million retention level over the past few years. And that's where the insurance carrier can't, they could maybe charge you to have a low deductible, but at that point you're trading dollar for dollar on it's going to be this much in premium because we know the losses are there. So unfortunately, I would say most risks of your size are taking a very high retention like I referenced or self-insuring it like you guys have been for the past few years.
I have a quick question if I could.
Yeah, absolutely.
When you say that there's a $5 million deductible, is that per claim?
Yep, that's per claim.
Okay, I just want to make sure I
And
understand.
again, this is specific just to law enforcement legal. So we're talking, mostly, this wouldn't be a GL type claim. This is for false
GL is
imprisonment.
Loss?
General liability.
General liability.
General liability, I'm
Thank
sorry,
you.
yes. So this is just specific to law enforcement and it'd be a standalone policy. Typically what we see from other risks, much smaller than you is they bundle the law enforcement with other liability lines, which you guys don't do. So it's, it's a one-off policy just for the law enforcement legal piece.
Are you submitting it to MOPERM as well?
We'll talk with them about that. MOPERM typically focuses on property and some other liability lines, but they will entertain looking at it. The only difference is a lot of times insurance carriers want to see other lines written with the law enforcement legal as it often helps to offset the poor loss ratio that we see in the marketplace with the LEL type claims. But it's something that we'll absolutely investigate. We'll look at all options for you guys.
So is this something that other cities are doing, getting this kind of coverage?
There are, so as a kind of reference, anybody smaller than you is typically pooling this with their general liability, their public officials liability, their auto liability to kind of create an economies of scale. All those other lines typically have more favorable loss ratios in the marketplace than the law enforcement legal does. So it helps to kind of offset this. In this case, we're looking at a standalone policy. So all we have is the premium taken in versus your loss history for this line. And that in the marketplace isn't great right now, I would say. So either we do see other groups bundling lines together or self-insuring it like you all have been.
So is there any ballpark of what some of these other cities are paying
Well,
for the policy?
I can give some indications on premium. They're very, very preliminary. So I want to caveat that. So I didn't want to put them in writing, but I wanted to give you all the information I could in the 3 days that we had since everything has been finalized for this. For the 5 million x 5 million, the $5 million retention deductible, that first $5 million would be about 1.7 million in premium. And then the 5 million above that would be 800,000. So you're looking at
A year.
a year annual premium. So we're looking at about 2.5 million in premium for a $10 million policy, X of the $5,000 retention or $5 million retention. So as you can see, this is expensive. And, I don't know if we recommend at this point how that would look, but let us have more conversations with different markets and work these numbers down. But I wanted to give you guys the information I have at this point in time of what this would look like.
But that's per occurrence. That's not a maximum number.
So it would be per claim would be the retention. And then the premium I just discussed was the annual premium for your $10 million X of the 5.
For the whole year.
For the whole
I mean,
year.
It doesn't
Correct.
matter how many occurrences.
And sometimes you can negotiate, and granted, I don't have the policy forms or quotes in front of me, but you can negotiate, maybe if you have multiple claims in a year, you can do an aggregate deductible amount where it's, if you have a really bad year where you're hitting that deductible 2 or 3 times, we can put a cap on it. So that way you can budget for the most you'd pay in the deductible within a year. Now, is that always offered by these type of, carriers? Absolutely not. But it's something that we can help maybe customize your policy to a little bit to help you budget more.
Mayor had a lot of questions about this. Have you had a chance to talk to him, or would you be willing to do that?
I would be willing to talk to him. I have not talked to him directly, a few emails back and forth, but I know that there's lots of members of Lockton that have been communicating with him on a few different topics. So we have his contact and have been discussing it.
Please provide this information to the mayor.
Okay, absolutely. So I'm not sure when you'd like to hear about next steps, but I'll keep, everybody on my team updated. And as these premiums slowly start coming together and hopefully narrow down and policy limits become available, we'll keep you guys updated. And then happy to come back and present actual quotable, bindable premiums if you guys would like me to.
Next meeting, will you have that
Yeah,
information?
I think that we should have that settled by then.
Correct.
So it would be a good plan.
Put him on the agenda.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Andrew. Item B, budget transfers for fiscal year 2022-23. I request General Fund, Community Policing and Prevention Fund, Police Drug Enforcement Fund, and Police Grant Fund transfers. The General Fund transfer moves $3,575,000 within personal services to provide appropriations for salaries, $250,000 within contractual services to provide appropriations for legal fees, and $30,000 within commodities to provide appropriations for radio maintenance materials. Community Policing and Prevention Fund transfer moves $2.8 million within personal services to provide appropriations for Violent Crimes Division salaries. The Police Drug Enforcement Fund transfer moves $5,963 from contractual services and $12,544 from commodities to personal services. The total transfer is $18,507. The Police Grants Fund moves $27,050 from personal services and $2,950 from contractual services in the amounts of $20,000 to commodities and $10,000 to capital outlay. The Police Drug Enforcement Fund and Police Grants Fund transfers adjust appropriations to where they are needed now compared to when they were estimated in the fall of 2021 as the budget was being put together. If you do not have any questions, I recommend approval.
I move approval.
Been moved and second. All in favor by sign of aye.
Aye.
All opposed by no. Ayes have it. So moved.
Item C, bid number 2023-5, Motorcraft Parts, Brakes, Components Renewal. On March 22nd, 2022, the Board of Police Commissioners approved a one-year contract for Motorcraft Parts, Brakes, Components, and Accessories to Factory Motor Parts. The original contract period was from May 1st, 2022 through April 30th, 2023, with an option to renew for 2 additional one-year periods. I recommend approval for a one-year contract renewal with Factory Motor Parts for an anticipated expenditure of $188,249.27.
I move approval.
Been moved and second. All in favor by sign of aye.
Aye.
All opposed by no. Ayes have it. So moved.
Bank Pledge Agreement Form, Federal Reserve Bank of Boston. The department holds collateral in the form of securities pledged to the Board of Police Commissioners at the Federal Bank Reserve of Boston. With the recent change to the structure of the board and department personnel, the pledge agreement form needs to be updated. If you do not have any questions, I recommend approval.
There's actually a Federal Reserve Bank in Kansas City. I'm wondering why we deal with a Federal Reserve in Boston. How do you answer that?
Yes, we, the department's bank is United Missouri Bank, UMB, and that's who they use for their Federal Reserve. And I'm assuming it's because they got better rates there or pricing, but that's who they use. And since they are our bank, we leave it up to them to choose where they go.
You know, every year that this comes up, I have questions about it, and I've yet to get an itemized statement of what our assets are. And I am really prone to try and put this off until we get some more information.
Well, we put this out for a bid for
we?
banking services, and the board approved UMB. So they are the department's bank, and they go through the Federal Reserve of Boston for this. So that's.
All right. Well, can you, if all the bidding and all has been done, we at least need to have some itemization of what's actually there. And in my 6 years of being here, I haven't seen that yet.
I don't understand what you're asking for. I'm sorry.
I'm asking for a statement, you know.
Like a bank statement.
Yeah, or
Okay.
at least a statement of assets. I want to see what we have there, how much, what, we don't know any of the figures. We're signing off on it. And I just want to see an itemized list of what they have as in our asset column. You know, we don't know if after this last big market crash, did we have losses? We don't know any of that. And we're signing off on it. And I just don't feel comfortable signing off on it till we get some itemization.
Okay, so, all right. So hold this item to approve the updating of the forms. I mean, they're already
I'm
our
only one
bank.
person. That's just my opinion, but I would ask my colleagues if they would hold it until we can get some information.
I'm happy to get the information. I just need to understand better. I don't think the board has assets. I mean, we have money that we get from, we have the treasurer's account, we have the money we get from the city, but that's fair to find out a list of what we have. So.
Sure.
I think part of it is we've got the money we have in our checking account, for one of a better term, is well over the deposit insurance limit. And so a lot of times what governmental agencies do, and I assume that's what we're doing here, is they'll have monies that are pledged to back up that, so you're not relying on deposit insurance. And so in terms of how UMB operates, that's probably where their custodian is holding their funds. Like State Street, for example, based out of Boston, even though they've got offices here, probably do a lot of work through the Federal Reserve Bank there. And I don't know exactly who we're using for that or who UMB is using for that to pledge
And that's what I want to
securities.
know.
Yeah.
Considering that I've run a charter school for the last 24 years, I deal with government money. And so we have certain reserves. There's certain things that can and can't be done. And I know every figure to the penny. And if we're responsible for that,
Yes, you're right.
then I want to know the figures to the penny, just like I do on the charter school.
But in the meantime, we probably need to get the signatures changed so they can advance money.
We can't revoke signatures. So once it's done, it's done. We move on to something else.
But my point is, we don't have she's the treasurer now, and so they may not be able to move money around.
That is correct. We've had changes to the structure with promotions and then Commissioner Kramer becoming the treasurer. We can't conduct business in the normal fashion. I mean, there still are awardee, if you will, as far as the bid. They're still our bank, and we just need the signatures to conduct business. And I can get you the information that you're looking for.
Can you
Just
put that
asking.
on the agenda for next month?
I can.
Okay.
All right.
We will
All
trust
right.
you to do that.
Yeah. And I will put that in my memory banks.
I
In
move-
fact, let's put it on the agenda.
Yes, Bethany. I move approval of the signatures.
And all the resolutions contained in these.
Yes.
All right. It's been moved and second. All in favor by sign of aye.
Aye.
All opposed by no. Ayes have it.
Item E, bank pledge agreement form and resolution from United Missouri Bank and the Greater Kansas City Public Safety Credit Union. The department holds banking accounts with the United Missouri Bank and credit cards with the Greater Kansas City Public Safety Credit Union. With the recent change to the structure of the board and department personnel, several forms and the resolution need to be updated. If you do not have any questions on this one, I recommend approval.
Again, I'd like to see a statement so that we can see what our fees are. Even though it's been approved, we still haven't seen actual numbers. So I'd like to see a year-end statement. So if you'll include that with next month, then I will not hold this up.
You bet.
Move approval.
Moved and second. All in favor by sign of aye.
Aye.
All opposed by no. Ayes have it.
Item F was heard previously. That was the department's medical and dental insurance. You went ahead and approved that after the presentation.
Yes.
So I would like to replace that item with a brief communications unit update. Some of the numbers are going to reflect what Deputy Chief Niemeyer already provided. We currently have 36 dispatchers and 30 call takers. That's down 33 from where we need to be compared to 34 last month. January wait time average was 28 seconds compared to 20 seconds in 2022.
So that's the on hold before they talk to anybody, right?
They're getting the recording when they call 911.
Got it.
Yes. We currently have 16 candidates in the hiring process and 5 have received a conditional offer. We have 6 call takers in the communications unit class that started on February 13th. Some of the efforts we're doing on our part to recruit more call takers and dispatchers, we received 12 resumes from the Full Employment Council. Out of those 12, only 1 has applied and she is scheduled testing today, in fact. The next event for the Full Employment Council is scheduled for Wednesday, March 1st. We will be at the upcoming Citizens Police Academy on March 7th. We'll provide a presentation on communications unit and give out information and see if we can get somebody to join our team there. And as always, members of the communications unit are constantly reaching out to their friends, friends of friends, and doing a recruitment push. And I think it's wonderful getting Deputy Chief Niemeyer's report on how many people we're starting to get in the door. We still have a long way to go, but it's not for lack of trying. So I give a shout out to all the men and women in the communications unit who realize the impact of getting more people in those seats to answer those calls in a timely manner. So we'll keep up the effort.
So of that 28 seconds on hold, is that every call, or what percentage of calls are going on hold?
Well, that's an average.
That's an
So, I mean, some are less, some are more. You know, we are not near the national standard, which is 15 seconds, 90% of the time. But I don't think we've ever hit the national standard, and very few departments, especially in this day and age, are able to hit that because of staffing levels.
So everybody that calls is put on, here's a recording for, at some point in time.
Well, not everybody. I mean, they will get a call. This is just an average.
Okay.
And it varies by watch, of course.
Of course.
Is your call volume.
So you said the national average is what?
National standard is 15 seconds, 90% of the time.
Is that a national average or the national standard, what their goal is?
The national standard. I'm sorry if I said average. I apologize.
Oh,
Yes.
okay.
Thank you for clarifying, Mr. Kenner. National standard.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
If I could add just a little bit of conversation onto the Executive Services Bureau. I want to give you an update on our recent budget process. Recently, we were provided the budget submitted to the City Council. The budget submitted to the City Council is less than our requested budget, 13 million less specifically in non-personnel costs. And then there was also a 6 million that was reallocated to a different line item. The budget submitted to the City Council, like the 6 million was for a detention center design and pre-build. While I look forward to seeing the need for a city jail come to fruition, the police department needs the $6 million for our operating costs, and it should be further noted.
That's exactly. He said that 6 million shouldn't come out of our budget. That's what I was referring to when City Councilwoman Hall was here, when I watched that discussion and several people said, what does this mean? They did not understand why it would be in our budget, and it's because it doesn't belong there. We don't build or run detention centers. So yeah, it should not be in our budget. And I thought it was a mistake, and I'm assuming that the city's going to correct that.
Yeah, they're reviewing that, and I look forward to that being us being able to utilize those funds as we requested.
Right, because the budget we sent had, in essence, $6 million to pay for our officers, and they put it in taking care of the detention. Thank you. Did I interrupt? Are you done? No. Okay.
So it looks like this is the month for slideshow presentation, so I don't want to disappoint my peers here. We have one as well.
I'm pleased. Thank you.
All right. First slide. Requested versus submitted budget. General fund request was 250.9 million. What was submitted to council was 237.3 million.
All right, now let me make this clear. So the requested is what the department requested.
Yes, ma'am.
What was submitted to the city council is what the city finance department put in.
Finance and city manager, yes, sorry.
Okay.
Thank you.
I don't want people to think that requested and submitted, that we submitted it. We didn't.
Well, yes, we did. Yes,
requested.
Yes, the general fund request is what we sent over, that 250.9.
Yes.
That's what we sent over.
That's the
But
25% of the general fund, the 250?
We don't know.
We don't know. We just put in for what
I'm just talking
'cause we
about
don't- we can't calculate.
the column titles. And when it says submitted to the council, it was submitted by the city.
By the city, yes.
To the council, not by us.
Correct. So on other slides, you're going to see up there, it says requested. That's us.
Right.
And then submitted to council is what happened after
It went
the
across
city
the street.
manager and the finance committee.
Thank you.
Welcome. The difference is a reduction of 13.5 million. Next. General fund change from requested budget. This slide illustrates where the reduced funds came from. 6 million was removed from salaries. 13 million was removed from contractual services. 575,000 was removed from police equipment, and the total reductions from requested is 19.6 million.
So the police equipment would be things like bulletproof vests, right?
Yes, helmets, shields.
Thank you.
And the salary line, that 6 million that was reduced from that is what they were using to fund the detention center. So, and the pre-build for the design, which to my understanding, that should go back to the city budget, city manager's budget, and the 6 million should go back into our salaries.
Yes, that's what we'd like.
Okay.
So when they modified this budget, did they negotiate that with you all, or that's just a number that they threw out once they got in their meeting?
No, we sent our requested budget over.
Right.
They did their thing to it, their reviews, and then it came back to us with, these are all the changes they made. So then last Thursday, we went over to full city council to present our budget request.
The answer is no, they didn't negotiate that with us. They put that in the
That shouldn't have
document
been
that they
on
gave
our
to the
budget.
city council.
I'm just trying to get a clear understanding. Okay.
We want very much to negotiate this with the city, and I think the city is responding. I certainly saw people in that meeting last Thursday that looked like they were willing to discuss that. Some of the city council members were surprised to see that change. So
Here's one of the things we did do. Once we got the budget, we realized that there were some significant changes. So we reached out to all of the city council members and their aides and invited them to come over to the police department, to come over here to headquarters, or we would go over there, somewhere where we can meet, and we would go through the budget and explain to them how what we request is not always, and more likely not, what they see. So they see the budget after it gets changed. 4 of the city council members took us up on our offer, and I got a good feeling from it. Our fiscal team met with them. They, eyes wide open, if you will. They appeared very enlightened by it. So,
well, I encourage you to continue that. And I didn't want to suggest when I said we didn't negotiate, it's just, we sent something, they sent something. Now we're going to talk to them about what we need to do to fix it.
and in fairness, we've sort of reached out in years past. It hasn't been a robust push, but this time, I mean, only 4 members, but we had 4 council members come over, and that's huge to what we've had in years past. So I think they are feeling our struggle and hearing us.
Well, please.
It was a nice meeting.
Yeah, please continue to reach out to them and to meet with them. I mean, it's very important that they understand what we're doing. It's not a secret.
Yeah, and we also, that's part of, when I came in to this position, I wanted to make sure that we fostered those relationships with our city council, with our city officials, so they know exactly what our budget is, what we're requesting and why. And we're not going to request more money than we need.
And as the auditor said, if there's some money that we don't spend, it goes back to the city anyway. All right.
Thank you. On the same slide, the following unrequested line items were then added into our budget. $125,000 for crime commission tips and $6 million for a detention center design and pre-build. This brings our net change from the requested budget to 13.5 million.
All right, but the crime commission and tips has never been our responsibility, except for a pass-through, right?
Correct. It was in our budget about 3 years ago, but yes, we've
Yeah,
been
we
a
don't have
pastor.
any
I thought
part
that
of
came
that.
from
That's
combat.
contracts that they have.
The city has contracts with the crime commission, right?
Yes.
Okay, not the police
I don't
department.
know if they do right now, but yes,
Right.
it's not ours.
I thought they came through combat funds.
It comes from grants. but
No,
they're
it
putting
comes
on
from
our
the,
budget, I believe.
well, I don't know where they,
It's been on our budget. When it was in our budget before, it was in general fund. I believe the city is using Rebuild KC to fund the time period between when it was in our general fund and I guess this next budget.
So the city got it in grants. But yeah, that shouldn't be on our budget. Or we should have control if it is on our budget, correct? Because we're just.
We don't want
pass-
control of that.
Right, right.
We have enough.
personnel versus non-personnel operating costs. This slide represents how our requested funds are allocated and shows our personnel versus non-personnel operating costs. Total personnel costs is $232.5 million. Contractual services, $10.7 million. Commodities, $5.2 million. Capital outlay, $2.3 million. Total non-personnel operating cost is $18.3 million. This gives a total requested budget of $250.9. Requested budget, non-personnel operating costs. The amount of the reduction is over $1 million more than our total non-personnel costs. So what are impacted by the non-personnel costs? We included areas that have $100,000 in expenses within contractual services, commodities, and capital outlay to illustrate this, and it's in the slide. All these areas we consider mission critical for the security and safety of our citizens and department members. Within our contractual services, we have things such as paying for building utilities, telephone network connectivity, vehicle and helicopter repairs, and radio maintenance. In commodities, we have lab supplies and chemicals, minor equipment, uniforms, and vehicle and helicopter parts. In capital outlay, we have a need to replace expired personal protective safety equipment. And to Chief Graves's point, our department has and always will put our members first because we believe they are the heart and backbone of who we are as an organization. But that does come at a cost. For example, year after year, we've had to defer maintenance to infrastructure or the inability to implement a throttled replacement plan. These decisions were often made in order to provide our members with a raise. We have been proactively meeting with city leaders in hopes of getting the funding necessary to adequately serve the citizens of Kansas City and provide the best possible police services, and will continue those meetings with the city until the budget is finalized. Any questions?
No, and the mayor's not here, but I have heard him on the radio many times say he wants our officers to have more money. So I feel certain he will help us make that effort to get our officers more money. I can't imagine that he would approve of something that would reduce the salaries of our officers.
Or not allow us to give them raises or the equipment that they need to stay safe and keep the citizens safe.
This is very helpful. The slides are very good. I'm sure you did them all by yourself. I see
The
her.
real expert.
She knows who I'm complimenting. Thank you very much.
Again, she's a jewel. She's great.
She is.
Thank you.
I rely on her a lot. These two things that are on your agenda,
Yes.
were they used, did we use our new software?
No,
or
so
whatever?
these were in the pipeline
right.
under our old process. So a little bit of a Lexipol update. Since the contracts have been signed, our research and development unit has Lexipol requires us to watch some videos and that kind of stuff to learn how they operate. And then actually next week, they have a conference call so they can learn how to use their knowledge management system. So we're almost ready to be up and running. They also did send all of our policies and procedures on a file over to them so they can start looking through those as well. So we might, in the next board meeting, have a few more policies that require approval under the old process, but we're getting there quickly. Yeah. And these two, they came up just as a 5-year review, and both of them have very unsubstantial changes to them, and I recommend approval.
No, I didn't.
I move approval of both.
I second that.
Been moved and second. All in favor by sign of aye.
Aye.
All opposed by no. Ayes have it.
That's all I have. Thank you.
Good morning, Commissioners. The information provided by the Office of General Counsel is under tab H in your book. The first item is the regular monthly report that you see, and if you don't have, from the private officer's licensing section, and if you don't have any questions with regard to that, the second item is another item from the private officer's licensing section regarding their fees. And I'm assuming you all have had a chance to look at it, but I think it's been about a decade since they have modified their fees. And at this point, they are needing to do so in order to cover their cost. So that item is there for your review and approval if you're so inclined.
I saw that that there is a statement in there saying that we are expending more than we're taking in. And I appreciate that statement, but I'd really like to see like a P&L or some kind of a financial report for that department. I don't know if that's possible to pull that out.
I believe that Ms. Gallagher and Ms. Ryder probably have that information. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, and I think we can go ahead and pass it, but again,
Okay.
I'd like to actually see a financial report.
We'll do that for the next board meeting for you.
Thank you.
I move approval.
Been moved in second. All in favor by sign of aye.
Aye.
All opposed by no. Ayes have it. Thank you.
That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Let's see. Okay. Merrill Bennigan had to leave, and he does not have a report, even though we have a report in our books. Public comments. Ask you to hold your comments to 2 minutes. And I think this is Shelley Rowe is up first. Reverend Scott Meyer is second. Yeah. Okay. All right. Reverend Scott Meyer.
Thank you. In November, is this working? In
Yes.
November, when we spoke to you here, one of you said that you had received our letter asking for dialogue about police reform and you'd get back to us. We've never heard from you, despite a number of attempts to reach out.
I'm sorry. Didn't you hear from our officer that just stood up? Didn't she speak to you right after our last meeting?
And she said that you were going to get in touch with us.
And you scheduled a meeting with the chief, right?
We want to speak to you.
I'm
We've now
sorry.
had 4 meetings scheduled with another of your members, and at every time, right before the meeting is supposed to happen, your member cancels. Why? And to this point, after the January meeting, a third member of your board said through another party that you wanted to meet with us, but there's never been any follow through. We have had numerous other dialogues with other people with authority and with responsibility for policing in Kansas City. No one was hurt by these dialogues. No hurt. I think everyone learned something. Dialogue is a proven method for solving the worst problems in the world, and we're not giving up. Is there anyone in this room who doesn't think that, as our first principle states, doesn't think that we need more black and brown police officers, especially women, here in Kansas City. But we can't really get that going without dialogue. You need us. You just need to realize it by sitting and talking and listening. 816-804-4539. Now, my brother from another mother.
It'll be all right. Okay. All right. My name is Stan Morgan. I think I've spoke to you before. I believe I told you I was a community activist, and I still am. I'm the community engagement advisor for Westport Presbyterian Church. One of the things that I did not tell you is that I am part of the shower ministry on Sundays. We clothe, feed, give them showers, change their clothing on Sunday mornings before the services. I'm one of the faces that you see. I work the community. That's what I do best. I'm a product of the Kansas City School District. Probably went to school with some of you, or you know my brother. I went to Central. I went to Purcell. I went to Lincoln. Come to think of it, you know where the police station is on 27th and Prospect? I was there. That's my community. That's where I grew up. I know Kansas City. It's about community. I'm a product of the Kansas City School District. I went to school here. I understand what's going on. I was here in the 1960 riots. I'm still here. I've been with the city for 20 years. Remember these names. Maybe you know these names. Bonnie Bratcher. Okay, I answered to Bonnie Bratcher. My immediate supervisor, Sam Duncan. I rarely ever saw him, okay? He ran the pools. Many of you connections with the pools they are in the community. All these pools with these little cartoon characters you used to see, Winnie the Pooh, Elmo, all those stuff in the bottom of the pools. Back in the day, that was me. That's what I did. The reason I mention those names, Sam Duncan and Bonnie Bratcher, they knew community, and that's what we're about. We're not about crime. We're trying to replace the crime with community. Get to know the community, because that's how we can stop this violence. Thank you.
I want to respond because you've been here several months and I thought we were responding. And one of the things we have is a department that is run by a person who spoke to you, and she is our designee for community engagement. And we as a board are not allowed to have meetings that are not public like this that everybody can attend. We can't do that. If you read the statute, we can't. So we can have one-on-one conversations. That doesn't do you any good. If I make a commitment to you, it's just me. If the bishop does, it's just him. What you need is someone that we have designated to work with the community, and she'll bring the proposals to us and we will talk about them, or maybe they will be something in this very meeting. But you can't come and expect us to come and meet with you whenever you choose, and we won't do any good because it's just one of us.
We're not choosing the time. We're leaving it up to you.
I understand.
And we would meet with 5 of you one-on-one.
Yeah.
Thank you.
One at a time.
Yeah.
And commissioners, I just want to let you know that I met with these fine gentlemen along with a couple of their friends, and we had a great dialogue.
I'm sure you did.
Good. Thank you. Thank you. Matthew Moore.
Matthew Moore, I live in Kansas City. Jesus Christ is Lord, and I represent It's Time for Justice and Casey Leap. An era where we, the people, are looking for more transparency, and an era where certain of your spokespeople have agreed to the need for transparency. It's frustrating, hell, it's shameful that this board has lessened community interaction at this forum. Moving our questions and statements to the dead end of the BOPC meeting ensures fewer participants and less accountability than ever. We have many opportunities to engage in meetings behind closed doors, budgetary meetings, etc. Why has this venue been so egregiously altered? At this point in time, the room has been nearly cleared of people who value the lives of community members more than status quo budgets and propaganda. Not all of us can afford to take a whole day off of work. But my real question is, who killed Malcolm Johnson? Malcolm Johnson died on March 25th, 2021 at a gas station near 63rd and Prospect Avenue, right up the street from my house. Authorities said at the time that KCPD officers had been searching for Johnson related to warrants for alleged crimes. Officers located Johnson at the gas station and attempted to take him into custody. With no thoughts for innocent bystanders, cops swarmed him with guns drawn, and within a matter of seconds, these cops had executed Malcolm with 2 gunshots to the head. We have multiple videos that explain what really happened, and we have eyewitness accounts. The investigation still stands open with no answers, no justice, and no relief for Malcolm Johnson's family nearly 2 years later. Contrast this to the swift action against murderous cops in Memphis. So what are the names of the police who murdered Malcolm Johnson? We, the community, deserve answers.
Thank you. Steve Young, Casey Lee.
I haven't started talking yet. You're not going to reset me? Thank you. Integrity, the quality of being honest and having strong moral principles. I'm held to this standard at work every day. I'm a manager at a major bank, and I'm expected to have the highest of integrity at all times. If I put the bank at risk because of my negligence, I am then at risk of losing my job. This is a bank. Mind you, I don't have anyone's life in my hands. I don't carry a gun and a taser and wear body armor at my job. Yet one of the most powerful entities in Kansas City is not held to this same standard. I'm talking about KCPD. They are allowed to beat, terrorize, and cause bodily harm on a regular basis with impunity. They can even kill and keep their jobs. They can lie on police reports and nothing happens to them. And it doesn't matter who the chief of police is. The cycle continues. Chief Graves, you made a video responding to the Tyree Nichols incident. It's easy to comment on another department and their issues. How about commenting on the Mac Nelson case and how Officer Frazier could have easily killed him by slamming him on his head? Then he goes and lies on the police report. I guess integrity is not important to KCPD, who continues to beg for the trust of the community. Then you have 4 other officers involved who didn't call out the excessive use of force, but instead kept quiet and tried to help cover it up. These actions are a clear lack of integrity, and all officers involved in this insult. So I say, Chief Graves, you were put in that position to make the hard decisions. You say you want to change the culture by holding your officers accountable. It's time to show the community you have their back and do the right thing. Show us you mean business and get rid of your officers with no integrity, starting with Officer Frazier. Integrity should be one of your main core values, because without it, all you have are power-hungry cops searching for their next victim. If you want to build that bridge between you and the community, you have to do what's right from within. We will not trust a department that continues to cover up for the worst of them.
Thank you. General discussion, Chief Grace.
Commissioners, a lot has happened since we met last month. The Chiefs won a Super Bowl as my as Patrol Bureau did such a good job. The men and women of the Kansas City, Missouri Police Department, along with some of our regional law enforcement agencies, assisted in keeping everyone safe during Kansas City's World Championship Parade. Unfortunately, with celebration also came sorrow for KCPD that Officer Jim Mulbauer and K9 Champ were gone. In addition to Mr. X, the pedestrian that was also struck the same night. On Wednesday of last week, we gave our officers a hero send-off. And last week, I sent a message to all members advising I have been with this department since 1997 and have never been more proud to be a member. After the loss of our officers, I have seen humanity shine. I have watched and witnessed members of the Kansas City, Missouri Police Department love and care for each other. And I've seen department members give love and support to the Mulbauer family, showing grace and professionalism. And despite the risks this profession brings, we show up. We continue to serve. We selflessly respond to dangerous situations to help complete strangers. Our calling to protect and serve others matters, and it means the world to those we help keep safe and save. And like I said on my first day as Chief of Police, after just getting sworn in, I'm humbled to lead the men and women of the Kansas City, Missouri Police Department. They truly are Kansas City's finest. February 15th and the 22nd displayed that in living proof. Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity to lead this organization, and I'm forever grateful. So thank you.
Thank you, Chief. You're doing a great job. Approval of open session minutes, January 31st, 2023.
I move approval.
Been moved in second. All in favor by sign of aye.
Aye.
All opposed by no. David Kenner, anything on your plate?
Nothing at this time.
Mayor Lucas, I don't think he has tapped in yet. All right. Commissioner Kramer?
I'd just like to say again on behalf of the police department, and I know Major Hernandez worked a lot on the funeral for Mulbauer and his family. My prayers go out to all of you, and I know that's hard losing somebody. It's family for everybody here, and you're all in my prayers. It was beautiful. I'm glad I got to be there and see it personally. You guys did a great job.
Thank you. Commissioner Dean?
I think I've said enough. Thank you.
I was in my church services on Sunday, and my sister walked up to me and said, Sunday was the 1-year anniversary of my youngest brother passing away. And of course, that's why the call takers have become so important to me, because he was put on hold twice. And so, you know, time goes so fast and so many things happen. And so I am glad to hear that we're making progress in that area. And I hope that at one point we beat the national average and can have every call to have some kind of acknowledgement. Because sometimes just to hear a voice and be able to say, you know, I'm on the floor, or I'm being robbed. Because 15 seconds, 20 seconds, 28 seconds can mean a lifetime. So thank you for all that you're doing to improve our service to our community. With that, we will adjourn out of open session and go into closed session. Thank you.
I move that we go out of open session and into closed session.
Second. All right. Talbot, aye.
Dean, aye.
Kramer, aye.
So moved.